Okay, so I think we're on right now. We are. That's the new signal from producer side.
There we go.
And then when it shows up, he's going to give us a new signal. So, technically speaking, we're recording right now. We're good? Yeah?
There it is.
All is well. That's lovely. First things first, I would like to apologize if I can't hear what you say today, because I am currently stuffed up in this ear.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, like the side of my body that listens to you,
Mm-hmm.
because, only one side of my body does, is really clogged right now. I don't know why. I probably should be seeing a doctor. Paul said he's back, boys.
Paul is
Welcome back
back.
to the chat. So
That's
glad
a
you're here.
lovely
We
start.
moved it earlier so you can get some better sleep.
Yeah. A half hour.
Although it was only a half hour. But yeah, I'm really stuffed up here. So if I can't hear you, I'm sorry about that.
We'll just be like separate podcasts. You know?
What did you say?
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't hear you.
So we're gonna get into. Well, we probably.
Excuse me?
We should address.
We should address. Yeah, we should address the fact that last episode we made a huge cardinal mistake.
Cardinal sin.
Yeah, a cardinal sin. No, that's what my coach says. He says cardinal mistake.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but he is not from the U.S. He's Serbian.
Yeah.
So he, there is a language
The
translation.
translation.
Yeah, but that's kind of strange. He says it about like making a bad tackle. Is making a bad tackle a cardinal sin?
I don't think so. I think it's just when you break a rule like that you can't break.
Which is sliding in the box, according to him.
Maybe. Maybe that's fair. Maybe that's fair.
Okay, but we do have to address the cardinal sin that we have made last episode. You can address it.
Well, I
Take responsibility.
we did not.
It's a group thing, actually.
Yeah, we kind of got into the episode without introducing the welcome back, as we have done every episode. So, do we have to do both? Do you think?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this one's for last episode,
Yeah.
which was 22. So, welcome back to the COG Weekly podcast, season 3, episode 22.
Reset.
Welcome back to the COG Weekly podcast, season 3, episode 23.
That's fantastic.
And now we're all good.
We are.
Yeah.
Everything is fantastic now. We're caught up. Producer Sutton is ready to go. We were all having a good time in the studio before this.
Yeah.
That's why I love the studio. I'm going to miss it when we eventually, our lease for this studio is actually going to expire.
Yeah.
And we're switching to
end of August.
end of August. The lease on the studio expires. So I'm going to miss it because studio time is unmatched. But now we're into the real podcast and starting the podcast right, like we always do every single week. We will begin with the 3 choices for the Hassani of the week, which this week include Bukayo Saka, Kevin De Bruyne, and Ivan Toney. 3 ballers in the Premier League.
Yes.
And 3 ballers who had very good weeks, respectively. So you can start with speaking on Bukayo and his performance, as well as Arsenal's performance as of late.
Yeah, I think, well, starting off, they had a 3-2 win against Watford, and they went out to a 3-1 lead, and then Watford pulled one back. But Saka, I told you weren't watching this game because you were busy, but all of their goals were very good, and one-touch passing, layoffs, one-touch shot. But Saka had a goal and an assist in the win. And I think I saw a stat, and he has the most goal contributions of an under-21 player in the Premier League this year.
Oh, okay.
Or something close to it. He's just having
you
an
want me to fact
incredible...
check?
Sure.
Okay.
He's just having an incredible year.
Most goal contributions of under 23?
Yeah, in the Premier League. And he,
Is it under 23 or under 21?
21. But Arsenal move up to 4th place with that win. So Champions League could be back. I think they have a couple games in hand as well. So it's exciting.
It's really difficult. This is not a very...
In the Premier League. Yeah.
Okay. Bukayo Saka now has 13 goal contributions this season, the most of any U21 player in the Premier League. That's fantastic.
It's very good.
Paul said in the chat, if you don't give it to Saka, Lewis, I don't know why I always say Luis. He is part of Class on Grass program, so we probably get that right. Lewis, apologies. and him will quit being associated with COG.
Oh, that's a big.
Yeah, that's a huge claim
Yeah.
from Paul right there. It's gonna come down to whoever gets the most points. We do it on a point system.
Yeah.
So you get a vote, Paul. You get a vote.
With the other players that are in here, I feel like it's gonna be tough for that too.
It's very tough. You have to look at the other individuals in the lineup right now. It's overall a pretty tough one.
Yeah, but
So
yeah,
he did have a good week. Arsenal are playing very, very well. You said they were playing, tiki-talk football, moving their way up now in 4th place in the league. I actually was looking at, the top 5 teams from each respective league across more than just Europe's top 5 leagues, but generally speaking, those. And the top 5 looks pretty standard right now, which is kind of interesting to see. If I find it on here, I'm pretty sure I could recite it off memory, but I don't want to screw anything up here. So number 1, we have Man City with 69 points, and then falling behind them is Liverpool with 63 with a game in hand, so very close at the top. But then you have Chelsea, Arsenal, and Man United, 3, 4, and 5. So kind of different than what we've been seeing the past couple of seasons, right before COVID hit, when COVID hit, and then last year. Just because we oftentimes saw, Wolves or Leicester creep up into there, West Ham would creep up into there. So we would see certain teams break into that top 5 for good chunks of the season. So just going back and seeing that we have the 5 biggest clubs in the top 5 is kind of interesting because it's been a while. Obviously, West Ham are in 6th, but if, and they're level on points, Tottenham is able to overtake West Ham, we will have a virtually identical top 6 to what we had, looking at the Big 6
why they're named the Big 6.
Because, widely named because of money, generally speaking. Yeah. But it is interesting to see that there's a kind of a shift going on, and I don't know what it suggests. I don't know if it's good, but I was just like, wow, it is going back to normal. We've been seeing a lot of interesting shifts, and now it's kind of everything's moving back.
What are the Big 6?
The Big 6 are Manchester City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Manchester United, and Tottenham. So that was Seti who asked that. Those are like the 6 teams in the Premier League that are most widely known, you don't want to say won the most, but have done the best throughout their time. And also a huge factor of that is just they have the most money. So they have the most support in America, and respective countries that aren't, England, they have the most support just because they're bigger clubs. They have more money, bigger owners, barring Newcastle now. And so those are widely regarded as the Big 6 for anyone listening also who needed a refresher on that or didn't know. But yeah, Saka did very well this week. And moving over to the left on the screen right now, if you're watching, to the middle person, Ivan Toney, who had a hat trick this week, including 2 penalties. So you got to dock him a little bit on that. But he did get a hat trick, and he is finding his shooting boots after having he's been doing well in the Premier League, but having a rough time finding the net, especially in the beginning of the season.
Exactly. And I did realize that he did score the hat trick against Norwich. It was a big relegation matchup there, and Brentford did pull it off to create even more of a separation between them and the bottom 3. But I did find it interesting. We've had another Hassani of the week that scored a hat trick against Norwich and got the final decision, who was Sterling.
That is true.
So, you have to take that into account.
Yeah. We don't want to have repeat
Yeah.
similar situations for Hassani of the week.
And again, both 2 of them were penalties, and you do have to take that into account. But Brentford, I hope they stay up, and I think they definitely should based on their squad.
They're at 27 points right now. Just behind them is Leeds, who are in 16th, and then Everton in 17th. But they are in the 3 above the bottom 3, and they currently sit 6 points above relegation. So it is still, in contention for
it's
them
where
to
you
drop down. But for them, it is where you want to be.
Like, I think going into this season, well, obviously for most promoted teams, it's stay up no matter what. Like, who cares kind of what the season is like? As long as you stay up, that's a success. And honestly, they're doing it pretty well right now. But yeah, then obviously probably the biggest matchup of the week.
The Manchester Derby.
Yes.
Who Wake Forest men's soccer were at, for all of
Oh.
you Americans
Yeah,
to know.
nice.
One of the best collegiate teams were actually at that game. I'm not sure that really matters, but I just want to put that out there.
That's a good
They definitely
fact.
affected the outcome.
Yeah, I think it put more pressure on Man U, and that's the reason why they lost.
Well, you would have to think that both of them, both managers, United Ralph, and Pep Team, we can call him Pep Team because that's his Instagram name.
Yeah.
I love it. But you could say they had a bit more pressure because seeing Jack Harrison, a graduate of Wake Forest men's soccer, doing so well for Leeds, they were probably like, ooh, we might want to snatch one of these boys up soon.
It's true.
So they were trying to showcase their best brand of football so that those boys would be interested. That's my take on it.
But as we'll get into it a little more, but De Bruyne really pulled the strings, as you say, had a masterclass with 2 goals and an assist, and really just made United look very, very poor compared to Manchester City's level. In the game, Sancho did tie the game, making it 1-1, but after De Bruyne's second goal went in to make it 2-1, it was really kind of out of sight at that point, especially in the second half. But yeah, those are the 3 candidates. Obviously, Paul has his opinion.
Paul does.
Yeah.
I was just gonna point out that on Sports Illustrated, they do player ratings for certain big games, and they gave De Bruyne a 10 out of 10. And they're not the most lenient on giving people good ratings in certain games. So he got a 10 out of 10 and was rated very highly, not just by us, but by other professionals in the field who, it was pretty evident that it was a De Bruyne masterclass and whatnot. Like you said, Paul said he thinks that Bukayo Saka deserves it. We also have Chris, who sent a text in and said, 2 of Tony's goals were pens. It's De Bruyne versus Saka for me, and Saka is my vote based on level of play for a youngster. So we do have 2 votes for Saka from the crowd, which does need to be taken into consideration here.
It's true.
And I do think that there is something to be said for the fact that De Bruyne's 2 goals, and Paul just said this in the chat, but 2 of De Bruyne's goals were pretty much tap-ins. He got them either within 2 yards of the 6-yard box or in the 6-yard box and just put them to the right side of the goal. Not the right as in the direction right, but to the correct side.
It was both were the right side of the goal. If
you're the keeper.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're the keeper. But they were both the correct side given where De Gea's balance was moving. So he did place them well, but it's a hard one. 2 goals and an assist is great, but I don't know if I can justify giving him the Hassani of the week because of how well Arsenal are playing. We always tend to weigh more than just the player's performance. We like to weigh the level of the game, which the Manchester Derby actually entails very well. But also we like to weigh how the team does, how they affect the team. It's kind of like the Ballon d'Or rankings, right? Where you weigh what the team's done, what level the player's playing at. There's this whole point system. We don't have that all worked out. But I do think that there is some need to be putting Saka a bit higher than maybe we were thinking before the episode started. I don't know what you think about that.
I think that's completely right. We have to listen to the people, take in their opinions, and I think I have been swayed a little just based on who we've chosen in the past, as we say, based on, relative accomplishment. And as a young player, playing so well this season, playing the best as a under 21 player in the Premier League, obviously, as we just saw, I think we could give it to him.
I do. So let's go with Saka.
Yeah.
I got the pad out here, the notepad. Do I have a pen? I do. Okay. So I have the notepad. So last week, obviously, Kelleher got the Hassani of the week with an 8.5 rating. Before that, Anthony Elanga with an 8, and then Raheem Sterling with a 7.5. So we've had a consistent bump up 0.5 in each average rating. But I'm just going to go and give Bukayo an overall rating of an 8. I think similar to Anthony Elanga's performance, it wasn't Kelleher who did so well in a cup final, although it was the EFL Carabao Cup. But I do think he deserves an 8. It was more than Sterling's hat-trick against Norwich for me. So that's my rating for him. Obviously, though, we need to add all of these up and then do the average. So what are you saying?
I like the comparison to Elanga's performance against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League. Um, Although, it was against Watford, which you do have to take into consideration. Um, and then you start to look at Sterling's hat trick against Norwich and compare that. So I'll go for a 7.8.
Okay, so we have an 8 from me, a 7.8 from Mac, and Chris texted in with an 8.2. Paul, we're going to give you 20 more seconds to put your rating in. He says he gives Saka a 100. I think that means 10. Because he's going above 10, and with Max.
But that's a bit
10.
biased. Maybe he should revise his score.
Paul, we're gonna give you 10 seconds. No, I to be fair, I think we should allow it.
But it's gonna skew off the integrity of the scoring.
Yeah, Paul, you need to give a more biased answer. I would agree with you on that.
I mean, we could give him an 8. Or we could just give him the highest score so an 8.2, like 2 8.2s.
Yeah, we'll give you respectively the highest other score.
What's the point of the point system if you don't count the points?
Well,
he's joking.
He's giving Saka. Well, he might be.
Yes.
He said final, give him a 10. Okay, we'll just go with 10. We'll do it. I mean, you got to respect the people.
He's gonna have an asterisk next to his score then.
He said he changed it. He said 9.
Oh, okay.
Well,
I'm redoing it.
I'll take a 9. That's fine.
Okay, so 8.2 was 8.
No.
What did you give? 7.8?
Yeah.
Okay, so then 8.25 is our final score
I think that's
for
fair.
Bukayo Saka. Let's get that written in there. Episode 23, 8.25. So not as high as Kelleher, but higher than Anthony Elanga. And I'm not sure if I agree with that, but we can move on.
But like we said, there was
it's
a 9 in there.
There was a 9 in there. It's the fan vote. It matters what the fans think. We're a democracy here.
That's true.
So we understand the necessity for Paul's vote. Moving past the Hassani of the week, we have the predictions from last week that, the ones we predicted in last week's episode, those matches to go over. Starting with the Milan Derby, which ended as a 0-0 draw. It was the first leg, I believe.
Yeah.
It was the semifinal first leg of the Coppa Italia, and it was somewhat eventful. If I'm going through the stats here, it was fairly even on possession with a 48-52 split towards Inter, but definitely AC Milan took more chances than Inter did. They moved down the field more and were able to get more shots towards the goal, yet they did have a poor ratio of shots towards the goal to shots on target, with 13-3 there. So maybe something to work on for Olivier Giroud and the respective AC Milan side. Yeah. But it did finish 0-0, 0-0. So, and it wasn't super one-sided, I would say. So I would expect a very tense second leg.
I think it was expected that AC Milan maybe inched the stats in their direction overall just by a little bit, because they have been playing so well, and they just beat Napoli, I believe, who are top 3 in the league. They just beat them this weekend, so they're really cementing that place, fighting for the title. And I think obviously I went for AC Milan last week, and you went for Inter, so I think
it's a
fair
neither
result. Yeah,
neither win.
Two very solid
One thing
teams,
we didn't talk about last week that I did just want to touch on, though, about this matchup, is we were talking about the Rafael Leao, Zlatan Ibrahimovic combination, and I actually did watch this game, just so you know.
Mm-hmm.
But we were talking about that combination, and Zlatan was actually out. He wasn't playing, and in his place was Olivier Giroud, who has a very similar stat number or margins of his stats. I'll look him up right now.
Well, he scored against Napoli this weekend to win the game, so he's filling in well for Ibra.
Yeah, no, he's been doing very well this season, and I know we looked up Ibra and we looked up Rafael Leao's stats, and they were both close to 10 goals, 5 assists, or somewhere around that. And actually, we have a very similar stat numbers, or very similar stat numbers from Olivier Giroud. He has this season with AC Milan 19 appearances, 8 goals, and 3 assists. So they do have a very good strike force, and I wouldn't expect them in that second leg to do much more damage. It is going to be played in late February, I believe, which is kind of strange that they're taking a pretty big hiatus from the Coppa Italia, but that will come up later down the line, and we will cover that.
I have a question though for you. For AC Milan, that team, they have Tomori and Giroud,
Fakayo, yes.
both former Chelsea players. If you were Tuchel, who would you take back if you could? Because they're both playing very well for a very good team.
They're both playing very well. I would also argue that AC Milan and Inter Milan, who are both at the top of the table of the Serie A right now, are generally speaking better than most sides in the Premier League until you get to maybe third place like Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
So these are guys that are performing very well on a team that is very similar to the level of Chelsea and how they can play. So if I was Tuchel, I would look at bringing both of them back in. I think that Giroud would be a better option short term, but I wouldn't do it if I were Tuchel because Giroud is getting much older. Right now, he's 35, and I don't think that it's really worth bringing him in for another year or two on a contract before he just decides to retire. I would be surprised if he goes farther than that in his career, age-wise. So I think Tomori would be the much smarter purchase, just given potential and age. But they're both good enough right now in the Serie A to do well on this Chelsea side. The only thing that it just always shocks me is that I rate the Serie A so highly, and I think it's a great league. There's really good players and teams in it, and when they compete in the Champions League, they do very well. But you have guys that move from the Serie A to the Premier League and frequently don't do as well as you'd expect them to do. For example, Romelu Lukaku, who is arguably one of the best players, if not the best player in the Serie A last season, playing for Inter up front, moves to Chelsea, has suffered some injury problems, and maybe doesn't fit their style the best, but hasn't really shown the quality that he did when he was at Inter, or when he was, you look way back at maybe when he was at Everton, and times like that. So I would say that it's kind of interesting, and although they're doing well for AC Milan right now, would they actually be able to make a dent in that Chelsea side, even though I think their levels match up very well. One other player who I think kind of counteracts that and is doing a good job of maybe taking that viewpoint and showing people or proving people wrong is Kulusevski, who's been doing very well for Tottenham.
Yeah.
But I think generally speaking, there are a lot of players that come back to the Premier League and do struggle.
Well, yeah, it's just an interesting one because obviously Chelsea has struggled attacking-wise recently this season. They started off very well with Lukaku, but then he got injured. So you're thinking, oh, Giroud is just very reliable in the air. That's a clear play style to get him the ball and create chances. But then there's also the thought of Tomori replacing Rudiger, who's been rumored to leave for Real Madrid or other places, and looks likely to leave. I'd say this summer.
Yeah,
so
I think that there is
there, and it, like you said, it is short term or long term, and it's on either end of the field. And
yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
And Paul put in the chat, similar to what you just said, he said, Tomori never should have been sold because of the contract situations of Rudiger and Christensen and the age of Thiago Silva. And I completely agree. Thiago Silva is doing incredible right now. He is arguably the best defender in the Premier League at the moment. And people can argue with me all they want about that, but it's just what I think based on his late performances. And I think that he's not, I would be so shocked if he can continue that throughout the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So it's going to be hard to have that level of consistency and leadership in the squad. And then when you're looking at Rudiger and Christensen, I would be hard-pressed to think both of them will stay next year.
Well, yeah, Christensen, I think, is closing in on a Barcelona deal.
And Rudiger has been.
Yeah. So it will be one to look out for because Chelsea have been known for their strong defense, but if they're losing that depth and probably tied best center back with Thiago Silva this summer. It could be interesting. But second game of our predictions was the Manchester Derby.
The game that Wake Forest was at.
Yes, we should just call it that. They
Yeah,
should
the Wake
rename
Forest
it.
game.
Yeah,
They should rename the Derby that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like in Manchester.
Internationally
known as the Wake
yeah.
Forest game.
But we talked about it before. Sancho did have bright moments. I mean, Man U did have bright moments in the first half. They looked pretty dangerous from the counterattack, and they did get the equalizer after a very fast start from City, but in the end, you could never see him really surviving with that tactic of just counterattacking. As I mean, it's what a lot of teams try to do is just sit back and try and get a goal on the counterattack, but Man City are just way too good at this point that they kind of know how to play against that, and they just end up scoring more goals in that way if you sit back. So, I mean, what do you think about United at this point? I know, like, obviously this was always going to be a tough game away to City, but is it Ralph? Like, would you say United Ralph is the problem, or is it still the players as they we kind of talked about with Ole as well. Like, people are saying it's a player's fault, not his fault.
It's a really tough one. When I think about the Manchester United situation, I think about Tottenham's situation and Arsenal's situation. And I think Arsenal's done a very good job. I think Mikel Arteta's done a very good job of revamping a culture and a set of players, and as Lewis and Paul would say, shuffling the deadwood, getting the players that don't need to be there out, and then bringing in solid replacements that are there to grow into the team. So I think they've done a very good job with this quote-unquote project. And I would look at Manchester United and Tottenham, specifically Manchester United, for this question, and I would say that they are in a similar project, quote-unquote, but not doing the same level of business to try to improve their situation. They're not making the right decisions, in my opinion. It's not the manager. It's not the players. It's not the board. It's not the Glazers. You can put the blame on anyone you want, but I think it's a collective.
Yeah.
And you can bring in a great manager, and the manager can't fix everything, and then he's going to get fired. And you can bring in a really good player. They brought in Cristiano Ronaldo. And that player can do great. People aren't remembering that Cristiano is the sole reason they advanced in the Champions League out of the group stage. He carried them. And
he's their top goal scorer, is he not?
I think so.
Yeah.
And but people are slandering the team because of him. And I have been one of those people because I think that there are ways they could be better without him in the lineup. That being said, they're bringing in really quality players, and they do that, and they bring in new managers, and they shift around the board sometimes. They do all of this stuff, but at the end of the day, they haven't found the recipe. And I think that's really what it's going to come down to. Like, can they put together a really good group of people motivated for the same goal and have an outcome like they're looking for? I just don't think they have that. Do you understand what I mean right now?
Yeah.
They just don't have that culture in the club.
No,
right
it's definitely a culture thing, and I think like you mentioned, looking back at Arsenal and Arteta, he made probably the toughest decision of his career, which was selling on Aubameyang, probably his best player at the time he was there, because of a culture issue, and he wasn't following whatever team rules they had. He was the club captain. It was a big decision for him to make, and it seemed to be for the better for both the player and for him.
Yeah, clearly.
You probably look at United and say maybe a couple of those players, even though obviously they haven't been known to break any of the team rules or any of that, but well,
You have some that
Yeah,
have
but, like,
entered into Prison FC.
more as like performance wise.
Yeah.
They're not doing well and they're not adding to the culture. So even if they are a good player, you kind of have to look and say rebuild like Arsenal did. Now they have three of the best under 21 players with Smith Rowe, Saka, and Martinelli, and
And they've been quiet while they do it.
yeah, they look like a very good squad now that is more likely to finish in the top four than United are. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see who they bring in after United Ralph.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Not only after him, I think he could stay at the club. Just
I think it's very unlikely.
you think so?
Yeah.
I think there's a chance, but again, I mean, he's probably gonna get moved on. But I think that when you were talking about the hard decisions that Arteta has made, selling on Aubameyang, I also look at the other decisions he'd made. He bought Ben White for 50 million, and I continue to say that was robbery from Brighton. That was absolute robbery. We've taken 50 million for a player that wasn't that quality, but somehow Ben White is solidifying that back line incredibly well next to Gabriel, who's a great player. So there have been purchases and gambles that Arteta has made that have not been looked upon well necessarily by the media or the people, that have paid out because of good faith and trust and whatever you think it might be. But I don't see that from Man United. They buy mainstream good players. They sign good managers that are supposedly very good with a CV and have, good experience coaching good teams. They tend to just follow the path that seems the most straightforward to success. And I don't think that that's going to get you where you want to go in a field so cutthroat as football. You need to think outside the box and go after players and develop players that wouldn't necessarily be picked up by other teams, because you need to develop your own culture and your own style of play so that eventually you can build a team that other teams can't defend and can't play against and can't figure out. So I think that there is a lack of that at Manchester United.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is going to be more of a time thing, and like Paul said, United Ralph, yeah, he is staying at the club.
We meant as manager.
Yeah, but he's probably going to be more in recruiting wise, is probably my guess. I'm not sure. Just on the coaching staff, but I mean, we've said it before, he's been in the whole like Red Bull system as well, and he's signed very good players around the Bundesliga, and hopefully he can maybe change that for Man United in the future, and we'll just have to see how it goes. But the last game that we predicted is an MLS game. Hard to predict.
Very difficult
The
to
outcome
predict.
shows that it was LAFC versus the Timbers. No goals for Carlos Vela, but it was a 93rd minute equalizer for LAFC after yet another
Bicycle kick by Yemi Chara.
Yeah.
That's crazy. 2 in a row.
two in 2 games. I mean, he
Did
probably
you see that Claudio Bravo got a red card
He
in the
did.
62nd minute? Is that that's not
No.
the... Yeah, I was going to say.
No, it's
Did
it's
he
like,
move to the field?
it's like their defender, I think. I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure, but yeah, they scored in the 18th minute, and then LAFC, after that red card for the Timbers, obviously piled on the pressure and got the goal late on. Rodriguez, very good winger, crossed it in low, and it was a tap in. So obviously we're both wrong with that prediction again.
We are.
But I was close to saying a draw, I remember.
You were.
And then I thought otherwise and said, we'll go with the Timbers. But, sometimes you're just off by a couple minutes, where that minute is an equalizing goal and you don't get the right prediction. That just happens.
I think that the score sheet, though, doesn't give enough... it doesn't give enough credit to LAFC and what they did throughout the game. 25 shots and nearly 70% possession and total domination in the front of having the ball, taking care of the ball, getting down the field, and getting shots off. So I do think that although they did get what they deserved in the 90+3, there should have been, obviously backing my prediction here.
Well, yeah,
there should have
after the
been-
red card, Timbers were probably like all in their 18-yard box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that being said, you know what I mean. It's all part of the game.
Yeah.
It's you go for the win, and especially when you're down, you gotta send numbers forward, and they did, and they kept the ball well. I mean, you don't rack up 70% possession throughout a game in the last 30 minutes.
Exactly.
So I do think it was definitely a solid performance from LAFC. No goal from Carlos Vela, like you said, but overall, decent game. It's impossible to predict, so
It is. But also in the MLS, the highlight, obviously, of our week was Hassani Dotson himself scoring, equalizing for United in a draw against Nashville, who is a very good team this year. And there are rain delays and all that, but, Hassani doesn't care. He scores when
we
he
have
wants.
to touch on one thing, which is incredible, and by the support of the podcast from fans and people who support what we're doing, we've actually gotten the opportunity to have dinner with Hassani Dotson himself, and we will be doing that. So we will let all of you guys know how that goes, and hopefully we'll get him on the podcast sometime after that dinner. But I think it'll be an awesome experience just to talk to someone who our podcast is pretty much revolved around. So yeah, that was, like we said, the highlight, and we don't know when that's going to happen exactly, but that's going to happen, and we will keep you guys in the loop on that. Just wanted to let everyone know who's invested as a COG Weekly fan. And moving down to arguably the biggest thing, well, technically speaking, the biggest thing that has ever happened in the MLS, an attendance record of, I believe it was 76,000 and
Yeah, it was like
900 something.
Yeah.
I don't have the exact number, but they packed out the Carolina Panthers stadium. And it was an absolutely incredible atmosphere. And I know you can talk about the goal, but on top of an incredible atmosphere, there was an incredible goal and an incredible celebration.
Mm-hmm. But, I mean, so when I was thinking of the whole attendance record and all that, I was thinking, like, everyone's making their new stadiums, but they're making them probably like 25,000 at most. And obviously they're all super modern,
They're so sweet, like Allianz.
Super new stadiums, and it makes the league look really nice and developing really well. But at the same time, every other league have clubs who have smaller stadiums, but they also have the Old Trafford or the Emirates, where it is.
Well, we have Atlanta United.
Yeah,
but
that's
I do
not
see
even
what
a
you mean.
soccer specific.
It would be really cool if we started to get the Old Traffords or the Emirates. But this brings me to, and we can go into this, but this is going to bring us to a whole debate about why U.S. soccer is what it is. I'm going to lay out the groundwork for it right here. Yeah, okay. I'm going to lay out the groundwork for my point of view on this. But the MLS won't let that happen. It's pretty much always going to be an equitable league where every team has everything that every other team has. And if they don't, they're working towards that. Mm-hmm. And that's just because it is a standalone league. There is no possibility for a USL Championship team to move up or an MLS team to move down. So you're never going to have...
Unless they get the expansion, but that's like a whole
That's a
thing.
very... And you don't move down.
No,
we haven't seen that at least yet. So it's really hard to have Charlotte say they made a soccer-specific stadium that holds 70,000 people. It would, first off, that's ridiculous. I don't think Charlotte would actually be able to pack 70,000 people into a soccer-specific stadium every single week. But if they did that and successfully were able to get that many people out every week, it would be kind of difficult for the smaller MLS clubs to, I don't know, I feel like they all have some like underground agreement, because if Charlotte has that, then they're making way more money and they're able to like bring in the best players, but then like there's no possibility for any of the lower teams to like do better in American sports. They're all about that, and the lower teams will just be stuck at the bottom of the league like consistently and never like move down to a better situation.
Yeah,
It
but
just feels like an equitable league.
I get what you mean by that, and I feel like the league can control obviously DP spots and wages and all of like the more like player based and club based things, but I don't know exactly if they can control the like stadium size because I feel like that's more of an independent thing, and if you are going to get enough fans to fill a bigger stadium, I feel like they should be able to do that. And I don't know. I think obviously it is relatively a new league, and soccer isn't the biggest sport in the U.S., so they're not gonna. It's not like they're keeping people out of the stadium because there's only a limited number of seats. It's more
I would
there's
agree.
they take the average. They're like we're probably gonna get around 20,000 a game, so we should make it look like a full stadium instead of having a 40,000 seat stadium and having empty seats.
I just feel like if Charlotte got a 60,000 seater and then you had other teams from around the country developing stadiums that were that big, you would just start to see every single team go for that because owners here have a lot of money, and US like there is enough people in the cities to attract people to go like you see in the NFL. You just need a culture shift. But you'll never have I don't think you're ever going to have a league. Here's, I think, what I meant more than you're never going to have the huge stadiums. I think there's a chance you could have huge stadiums if soccer gets bigger, but you're never going to have a variation in stadiums in one league. You know, every stadium, I think, is going to look very similar with how many people it seats because the MLS is going to get to a certain popularity, and then you're going to seat that many people at games that people are going to. If that might be in the range like 40 to 60,000. But because you don't have USL teams coming up, you're never going to have smaller stadiums in those respective leagues. Like, everyone's going to catch up eventually.
So you're thinking it's more like NBA or NHL where
it's a uniform
where they all like
process.
You can't have a really the attendance isn't really shifting, like the size of the arenas aren't really shifting from team to team, even though Golden State have like a much bigger following than
Yes,
like
I would
Houston or
agree. I
something.
think there's a chance for
It's just the
MLS
stadiums are the
teams
same.
to have 60,000 seaters across the whole league like the NFL eventually, but I don't think you're going to see like a different size stadium for each team. I think just with American culture, I don't think people will like that. I don't think owners won't be okay with that. They're going to be like, why do you get this and I don't? Now I'm going to build up a bigger stadium.
I don't agree with that, but
Really?
yeah, I think
Paul, what do you think in the
I
chat?
think it doesn't really matter. Like to the owners, it's more just if you have enough fans, then why not? Like you see at Atlanta, they're doing pretty well with how big that stadium is, to fill it every home game. So I don't know. I feel like there is definitely the possibility of having different size stadiums, but
Okay, so if you think that,
the new stadiums are usually newer teams and they don't have a following yet, so they're gonna have a smaller. Like,
but why would you make a stadium that you're going to outgrow?
Because it takes a while to outgrow,
I guess.
especially in the U.S. soccer. Like
Yeah. Okay, so if let's say you're right and teams begin to branch out and some teams are like we have a big six in the MLS. Because if you have a bigger following, you're going to get more money, and that means you're going to have a big six or a big four or a big one like Golden State. You know what I mean? Like you're going to have teams that are very – I know I just like butchered the whole basketball analogy there. Like Golden State's probably not the only good team. Saudi like winced when I said that.
yeah, no.
But Golden State has the biggest following, yeah? Golden State and like the
I
Lakers?
would say the Lakers have.
The Lakers have the biggest following, but they're not good this year.
Well, but they have the biggest following because of history.
Yeah, exactly.
Manchester
With the
United.
NBA,
Manchester
there's, like,
United,
There's
yeah.
a lot of history,
Yeah.
so like it's different.
Yeah, exactly. But what you know what I mean? Like I just let's say you're right and you do get teams that are way bigger and like followings and big stadiums and stuff like that, you know, and you get like a diverse league of small teams and big teams. Where does Minnesota United land in that spectrum?
We would be the same, I think.
You think we would be a 30,000 seater that is not super followed, or do you think we would go
I don't think we're gonna build a new stadium.
like ever?
No.
Okay.
just because I don't know. I think it's more for the LA Galaxies or NYCFC when they move out of the Yankee Stadium
Yeah.
to build their own stadium. It's more for the big cities to make bigger stadiums. I don't think Minnesota is like a location where, I mean, we're a decent team. We've made it to the playoffs. Like,
I mean, we're a
consistently.
consistent playoff
Yeah.
team. So then you'd think if there are big teams, we'd get a bigger stadium.
But I
maybe
don't
not.
think it's like good team automatically bigger stadium in that sense. Like,
it's more following in the city.
yeah, I think Chicago, well, the Fire are pretty bad, but like
But they would have a bigger stadium.
LA, New York, Chicago, like maybe Orlando or something, like they would all have bigger stadiums just because bigger population.
Okay. I see that. I mean, only time will tell.
Yeah.
Paul agrees with me, so I take pride in that.
Yeah.
But only time will tell. And so I guess we will see in the future. Moving past the United States and back over the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah.
Mhm.
I need to make sure I got that right. Back over the Atlantic Ocean to the European leagues. We are going to do our upcoming predictions. Paul just said Chicago Fire have no following in Chicago at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
But back to the upcoming predictions. We are predicting 3 games, starting with Real Madrid versus PSG, which is the second leg of the Champions League. And you can start with what you think.
So yeah, we predicted the first leg a couple weeks ago, but obviously this is the reverse one, and I went for a draw, I think, last time because I was mad that Mbappe scored in the last minute. But Mbappe is doubtful. He had an injury in training this week, so he's doubtful for the game. Sergio Ramos also is out for PSG. So 2 big names. Mbappe, obviously the one who scored for PSG to make it 1-0, is out most likely. So I don't know. I think I'll go. We're doing for just the individual game, not the aggregate score.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I think Real Madrid will win this one.
So are you going with a Real Madrid win on the whole thing then?
I mean, probably.
Just like off the record?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll be by 1 goal or 2 goals or whatever, but I think Real Madrid will win this game.
I get one that's the same, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go the same as you.
Okay.
I believe Real Madrid will win. Just touching on the records, I did salvage a little bit of my record. I added 1 and lost 2.
Lost 2.
That's better than the 3 and out that I had last week. So
your record got
well, it's not Yeah, Suddy said it's
it
not
got worse
salvaging.
by 1. Right?
Yeah, but it got worse. But the ratio at which it's getting worse is getting better.
Yeah, you didn't go 0 for 3, is what you
Yeah.
mean. Okay.
So it's salvageable. Well, I don't know. But you are.
We just say it wasn't as bad as usual.
It wasn't as bad as
Yeah.
usual. Okay, there we go. Suddy's helping me out there. But yeah, we both predicted Real Madrid. Simple one there. Moving down, we have Sevilla versus West Ham United. Big Europa League clash up, yeah.
Europa League. Sevilla are second actually in La Liga, which I was surprised about when I checked that. And West Ham obviously battling for top 4. So 2 decent teams in their leagues, but a very uncommon matchup versus these
Oh yeah, you don't see these 2 teams matching up very often.
but
Sevilla are the Europa League merchants.
Yes.
So I would be surprised if they lose. But you can go first. Actually, no, I deserve to go first because you went first
Okay.
last time. I'm going Sevilla with a dub here. You're required to do differently now.
well, yeah,
That's tough.
you're just doing that because your record's so bad.
No, but Sevilla are actually going to win.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I would have predicted that, but now
Yeah.
since you predicted the same on the first one, now I can't.
Yeah. That was big brain by me. Are you
Okay.
disappointed about that?
I mean, you did it last episode.
Did I
too.
actually?
Yeah,
And
with LAFC. So,
well, it's a game, You got to play the game. Don't hate the player, hate the game.
but it's the player who's making the game worse.
Well, we set these rules.
I'll go
I'm
for a
just saying.
draw.
The score speaks for itself.
Yeah, I'll go for a draw.
Okay, well, you could scoreboard me right now, but I'm coming back.
Okay,
I
I'll go
am.
for a draw.
Okay, draw, Sevilla win. Okay, you get the first one here.
Okay. The Man U versus Tottenham. I'm gonna go for a Tottenham win.
Darn. You really had to do that?
I'm thinking back to the
Cool.
6-1 win.
I'm just
a
thinking about
couple
how
years
good
ago.
Kulusevski's been playing.
Harry Kane's back at it. You know.
Exactly. Well, I was gonna go with Tottenham.
Oh, okay. There.
Oh.
Then it's fair. I mean, two.
Feeling like John Bellion right now. If any
Yeah.
of you guys understand that that analogy, you can let me know in the comments. I don't know what to do here. I'm gonna go Manchester United win because you did a draw on the last one
Mm-hmm.
because you still think Sevilla are gonna do well. I'm branching out of that.
Okay.
So Man United win. And then Paul said, can you guys predict Inter Miami versus LAFC off the record since I will be attending? Paul, are you in LA or Miami right now?
Are you in Miami?
Is it gonna be in Miami?
Well, I don't. He said Miami first, so it should be. Let's see. So yeah, at Miami.
Okay.
But that's gonna be like a 3-0.
Paul, are you in Miami right now?
That's gonna be like a 3-0 LA win. Miami are really bad, so
I'm going with a Miami win.
I'm going to be soon. There you go.
I'm going with Miami win because I'm off the record, so it doesn't count towards the
Yeah.
record, you know. And I believe in Miami.
Okay.
All right. So that concludes. All right, that concludes the predictions for this
We
week.
should just do off the record for all of the predictions, so it doesn't matter. Just like, yeah, okay.
This one actually is not part of the record this
Yeah.
week. Just the whole week's not part of the record.
Yeah.
I just switched my hat around. Does this, looking at the pod, does this look good, Seti? You think that people would like the forward hat?
I'm not gonna comment.
You're not commenting?
I
Oh,
think we should
it's
move
a
to
tough one.
fantasy then.
You think we should?
Yeah.
I'm moving it back to
Yeah,
backwards.
I think that was best.
You think that was
I
a
think
good
that was
decision?
the best decision.
Okay. You think that was the best decision of the night?
Yeah.
All right, so moving over to fantasy, which we have up on the screen right now. I did better than you in the draft, but I did not necessarily in my normal team. You switched your team around a bit.
Did I?
Maybe. You did well.
I switched it. I switched Christensen out for next week because I realized he's probably not going to play for the rest of the season. But Schmeichel with 10 points.
That's huge.
Huge. De Bruyne, huge performance, as we've already talked about. Pookie with 8 as well. So, Van Dijk with 6. Captain Ward-Prowse got 4. but
That's lovely.
that happens,
Well, it's a double game week on him.
Exactly. So, against Newcastle at home, you'd think maybe a 30-point captain.
Yeah.
Point.
No, I would agree.
That's kind of what I'm expecting then.
Totally. No, I think a solid 46.
Yeah.
Like Salah week.
Yeah. I mean,
How many-
53 points.
So if Ward-Prowse were to get double digits,
yeah.
would we be saying he scored multiple free kicks?
If he got double digits, it would be like clean sheet, goal.
Well, clean sheet's
assist.
only 2.
Yeah.
Oh, but you're captaining him.
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah.
Like goal assist.
So clean
maybe.
sheet, free kick, assist.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Saved penalty.
Ward-Prowse steps between the... Wait,
Yeah.
do they do that in fantasy? Like if Kyle Walker goes in goal?
I would think so.
That's crazy.
But obviously, I don't think that's happened in the Premier League, at least.
Lewis Dunk went in goal.
True.
He
But he
did.
didn't save a penalty.
Clean
so-
sheet.
Did it boost it?
Literally no idea.
No clue.
No.
I did have Dunk in my draft team, who got 7 points, and Van Dijk, the usual suspects in that team. and,
Yes.
I think I did win that result against Eli. So, what about you for your teams? Really below average.
Yeah, I got 27 points this week. I do still have a couple players to play. Emmanuel Dennis will probably help me.
Yeah, he's probably got double digits.
Yeah,
in
he's
him as
probably
well.
got, 60 points in his
Yeah.
locker for that game against Wolves. But yeah, I didn't really see no one did well. Like no one. I actually didn't get a single player with
No, Tony. On your draft team.
well, yeah, so my draft team's a different story.
Yeah.
No one did well on my regular team.
No.
Not a single person.
Or no, Coutinho. Got like 13.
I don't have I do, yeah. I do. I couldn't see that. Oh, I need to improve my pixelation here, and then I can. There we go. Okay, so yeah, he got 13. Yeah, Coutinho's a big pickup. But the draft was better. The draft was 34. I want to check.
As usual, you know.
Yeah, I'm a very good drafter.
I'm losing right now to Eli actually, but I have.
Well, it's a game against Eli. You got to remember that.
Yeah, I have Digne, Ward-Prowse, and Walker Peters and Pookie all to play.
That's
so,
lovely.
for the
I'm
W.
logging in right now. I'm currently losing to Leo Cav right now, 42-38.
I see.
Which is a tough one. He also has like lots of players to play. Yeah. Okay.
I think you could pull it off though.
Oh, he's also moving his team around.
Oh.
I had no idea. Wow. He's changing up his team like very diligently.
Doesn't he know that you're not supposed to do that for fantasy?
I mean, you can't.
That's our rule.
Yeah, that's the rule. That's the rule. No, that's great from him. Yeah, I'm losing to him right now. But yeah, that concludes this week's episode. It was kind of like a chilled out episode. I was gone for the weekend at a wedding, so I wasn't actually able to watch many of the games like live. I had to watch most of the highlights. So it was kind of just like a chilled out episode where it was like, we were just hanging out, talking about some of the games and whatnot. But next week we'll be back with our numbers crunched, looking at the analytics and everything like that. And until then, hopefully you can watch some of the games that we predicted. Champions League is on this coming week, which is going to be very fun. Obviously, the second leg of the Champions League knockout stage games are incredible usually. You usually get, especially in that round of 16, where you have more games going on, you usually get a good 2 or 3 real nail-biters in there. So I'm really looking forward to see if we have any of those this week, maybe some more next week. But keep your eyes out. Make sure you schedule work or something around those games. I'm telling you right now, it's very important.
Yeah.
I usually come home a bit early during those times to make sure that I can.
From work.
Yeah, from work.
Yeah.
I leave the studio early when we're writing the articles and whatnot.
Yeah,
We actually are working full time in a couple months
We
for
are.
Class on Grass, so be on the lookout for that. But until then, hopefully you have a good week. Can watch some of the Champions League, and peace.